What is sea surface temperature rise? How does it affect the formation of tropical cyclone? This is the question that has been asked. So when you start these sort of questions, you can directly quote down the reports like the global state of ocean report 2024 by UNESCO. Global State of Ocean Report 2024 by UNESCO claims that from the pre-industrial levels, the average sea surface temperature increased by 0.9 degrees Celsius. This is the report which we can quote. The sea surface temperature rise. And what are the reasons for the increase in the sea surface temperature? The reasons being the greenhouse gas concentration increasing and along with the CO2 absorption. Because these oceans act as the CO2 absorbers, the carbon sink which you can talk about. Compared to the atmosphere, it is 1,000 times. It absorbs more CO2 compared to the atmosphere, 1,000 times more CO2. That's why they act as a carbon sink. Now, the second reason why there is increase is due to the albedo. Albedo effect. The albedo effect talks about how the increase in temperature happens due to ice getting melted. Ice melts, which increases the sea level. And when the sea level rises, automatically it increases the evaporation. And when the evaporation increases, it can again rise to the sea surface temperature rise. If there is temperature that gets raised, again there is ice melting. This is how feedback loop obviously works out. That is the second reason why there is increase in the sea surface temperature. Then the third reason is the industrial effluents. The industrial effluents which we throw into the ocean. Then the next one, why? According to NASA, there has been 1.1 degrees Celsius rise in sea surface temperature compared to 1880 levels. Because NASA has been going on through the satellite observation to understand the sea surface temperature rise. This can be the reasons which you can go. After the reasons, they have asked what is the correlation between sea surface temperature rise and tropical cyclone. For that, we need to understand how the tropical cyclone actually forms. Tropical cyclone, what are the conditions for the tropical cyclone? The main condition is the sea surface temperature should be 27 degrees Celsius. When the sea surface temperature is at the 27 degrees Celsius, then it can lead to the evaporation. Then evaporation can lead to the increase in the water vapor concentration. And it can lead to the latent heat of condensation. The heat getting emitted after the conversion process happened. Then when there is latent heat of condensation, there is strengthening of the low pressure, which can obviously strengthen the cyclone. If you try to draw the diagram for it. So consider this is water. This water is getting heated. Now the low pressure keeps on rising. And it can lead to the formation of clouds. clouds. These are cumulonimbus clouds. Cumulonimbus clouds which can get formed because of strengthening of low pressure. And when this low pressure is getting the more fuel from the high pressure, then there is formation of a cyclone which is transferring like this. This is how low pressure is getting strengthened because of increase in temperature. Now consider 27 has become 28 or 27.5. Then it can lead to more sea surface temperature rise and more intensity of the cyclone. So the correlation between sea surface temperature and the tropical cyclone. The first one is the intensity of tropical cyclone increases. The intensity of tropical cyclone increases. Here you can quote the example of cyclone Amphan, which has hit in 2020, and within 36 hours, it had moved from cyclone 1, which is a small cyclone, to cyclone 5, which is a super cyclone. This has turned into a super cyclone. Then second, increase in cyclone energy. Here you can quote the example of cyclone Freddy, which has hit the Australia, and 37 days it has traveled the 700 kilometers in the Indian Ocean and reached the Africa, which is the longest serving cyclone in the world. 37 days it has sustained the energy. That's how energy has increased in the cyclone. Third thing, increase in rainfall. For example, the cyclone Idai has made devastating effect which has generated from the Mozambique. This is how the intensity of the cyclones has increasing because of sea surface temperature rise. How can you conclude these sort of questions? The conclusion part. Conclusion. See, the conclusion you can write down that there are some natural reasons for the sea surface temperature rise, but there are some anthropogenic reasons also, like greenhouse gas emissions. The only thing which we can go with is the proper implementation of the Panchamrit targets. The Panchamrit targets which India has given, if we can properly implement these Panchamrit targets, obviously the sea surface temperature can be reduced to some extent compared to the pre-industrial levels. This is how emissions can be reduced. This is how feedback loop can be reduced. This is what you can write as a conclusion for these sort of questions.